Hey guys, so I did my final project on the instruction focus on process elements. So writing, why is it important? It facilitates communication across distance and time. We could use writing to talk to people from other countries, to read things that people said hundreds of years ago, to write letters to loved ones. And it serves as a medium for artistic, political, spiritual, and self-expression. Literally everything involves writing. Whether you're a scientist and you need to write a dissertation about a subject you've been studying, or you're a teenager on social media, it's important to have and know effective ways of writing so that you can get your point across to your audience. So, introducing the writing process. When you're introducing the writing process to your students, you're going to need to make sure they know exactly what they're getting into. You want to lay out every single step along the way so that they can map it out in their brain. I found this really great video on YouTube that just does that. So I'm going to share it with you guys right now.
I don't know what to write about. Write about you. Dear Tim and Moby, I need to write an essay for English. The opening paragraph is due tomorrow. It can be about anything, but I don't know where to start. Help. From Angel. I'm in the same boat, but Moby just gave me an idea. When you can write about anything, it's good to pick a topic that you're familiar with. Okay, now that I've got my topic, the pre-writing begins. This is when you collect your ideas and make some notes. Let's see what kinds of things come to mind when I think about life with Moby. I'll start at the beginning, like when we first met. Well, hello, little robot. What's your name? Moby, huh? Well, how'd you get here? Where did this big giant smoking crater build you? Don't really remember how we met. I guess we've just known each other forever. Moby and I have lots of fun together, like when we go camping. Hanging out with Moby can also be exhausting. We have lots of adventures, even traveling back in time. Moby's messy. He can't cook anything without destroying the kitchen. Well, let's see what I've got so far. Adventures, fun, known him forever, exhausting, and messy. Let's get started. On to the drafting stage. This is where you develop your notes into full sentences and start to write a rough draft. Okay, how's this for an intro paragraph? Me and Moby have known each other for as long as I can remember. He's my friend, even though he drives me nuts sometimes. I guess it's fair to say we act a lot like brothers, having fun and getting on each other's nerves sometimes. Now, we don't have to use all of our ideas here, just the ones that get our main ideas across. What we're doing now is called revising, taking the draft and moving things around, changing words to make the writing more interesting. It's a good idea to read your writing out loud and to get feedback from friends and family. Oh, that works. Let's see. Moby and I are a lot like brothers. I've known him as long as I can remember. We do lots of things together, and even though he drives me nuts sometimes, we're still best friends. Sounds all right. Now we just need to proofread it for spelling and grammar. Whoops. Looks like a good intro paragraph to me. The last step is publishing this to show my teacher tomorrow. Cool. Hey, what are you doing with that water balloon? Don't make me revise this.
Okay, so that's just a silly introductory video to get the students ready to learn about the writing process. So the writing process, why should it be stressed in the classroom from educators? Research from the National Assessment of Education has shown that only 1 out of 5 high school seniors acquired the required knowledge and skills in writing. For most students, the challenge of writing comes from the difficulties of acquiring and utilizing the strategies of skilled writers. So basically, these students just don't have these strategies, whether they weren't taught it or it wasn't stressed and instilled in their writing process. Specifically, many students have limited knowledge of writing, utilize an ineffective writing approach, do not engage in advanced planning, have difficulty generating context, rarely make meaningful revisions, struggle with transcription, evidence minimal persistence, and have an unrealistic sense of self-efficiency. So basically, every single one of these things have to do with the writing process and just not knowing what to do. So as educators, what can we do? We need to make sure we devote plenty of time in the classroom to teach pre-writing, planning, and drafting writing. Not just writing itself, but more focus on the process of writing. Studies have shown that students can produce higher quality writing through activities that support the development of writing content. So these activities will surround brainstorming ideas and constructing background knowledge about a topic. A lot of times when teachers give students writing assignments, they make them do these activities at home. As educators, we should devote more classroom time to doing these activities in the classroom so students can have us at hand to guide them as they work out their own strategy. It's really important that we teach our students that the writing process is meant to be very flexible. Writing process will be different for every single student. The way we write will be different from each student as well. They need to know that the writing process is not necessarily linear. So the way that video made out the writing process is the way it's generally accepted and practiced. But students should know that they're going to be flip-flopping back and forth between each step. And it's not just necessarily A to B to C to D, and then they're done. Students should make use of writing, recording, and drawing, and other types of modes of media as they're writing. So this brings us to the learning types and the writing process. We need to help students realize what kind of learners they each are. So recognizing students' learning styles. It's going to be really important to us as teachers to see what each student responds to. Each student will have a different way that they express themselves and a different way in which they learn. We have visual learners, which like to use pictures, written directions, diagrams, and videos. And we have reading and writing learners, which enjoy learning through reading and writing themselves. Auditory learners, which prefer learning through sound, which could be from a recording or directly from a lecture from us. And then lastly, we have kinesthetic learners. They learn the best by experiencing and doing things. They like to get hands-on and do things physical as they're writing. So during the writing process, each kind of learner is going to have their own way of coming up with what they want to write. So in the stage of gathering information and brainstorming, visual learners should remember to list out important terms, use visual information, color code notes, and form a mental picture. Doing all of these things will really help them stay organized as they're gathering information and won't help them get lost and forget what their focus is. Auditory learners will do best by reading the assignment and prompt out loud. Every time they get a new bit of research, they should be reading it out loud and really thinking about it and listening to it. They should also discuss the assignment with peers, whether it be a friend, a parent, anybody. Just talking about it will help them really remember the information and help them decide in what direction what they want to go in when they're writing. Kinetic learners. So like I said, kinetic learners really like to get physical. So the best way for them to gather information is to collect information in a form that they can manipulate and move around. Post-it notes are a great way of doing this, as they could write out basic topics, move them around, scrap them, throw some in the trash, reorganize them. Really just involving their body in the thought process will help them excel. Okay, so when they got all this information, they really have to organize it. Visual learners, again, will do best having something to look at. They should have lists, use patterns, colors, and blank space efficiently. It's important to use blank space efficiently because they don't want all the text to get too muddled up. They want to be able to separate each text box and each point in their mind as they go. They will also do very well using a computer, as it will help them do each of these things. And we have auditory learners. Having organized discussions about each of the topics they've decided they want to write about with friends will really help them out. They should make an outline and read it out loud so they could really hear where they're going. Ask themselves questions. It's good to ask themselves questions just so they could hear things aloud and really see where they might be going right and where they might be going wrong. They should also write down thesis statements and topics for each paragraph and read them aloud. This way they could see what each paragraph is meant to say, reorganize it as they deem necessary, scrap, start over, whatever they see fit. And kinetic learners, again, should make something physical, whether it be a diagram, Post-its, notes, any kind of creative thing they could think of just to really get physical with their work. I'm a kinetic learner myself, and I find myself writing on various pieces of paper, taping them around me, and having a whiteboard. Really doing anything that gets you moving will help. Another thing kinetic learners can do is reorientate their body position to reinforce organization. This may sound kind of weird, but when separating each point they want to make or different things, they might want to change positions, say face computer when they're thinking of the first topic of the first body paragraph, turn around and face a different wall when they're going over the second one. It really just helps them separate each topic in their brain so they can stay better organized. Okay, and then we get to the drafting stage. Visual learners will be good to them to focus on one section of a paragraph at a time. You should highlight the topic sentence of each paragraph so that they can see the point that they're trying to make in each. Auditory learners. Whenever you're having a tough time, just talk it out, whether it be with yourself out loud, find a friend, just as you're drafting, keep speaking every single paragraph out loud to anyone who you can. It's also really helpful to put on a voice when you read quotes. This will help auditory learners separate the quotes from their own text to make sure that it doesn't just come out of nowhere and it fits appropriately. For kinetic learners, it's really important for them to take frequent breaks. Everything is really physical for them, so if they're not moving for too long, they may start to crash. It's important to set aside plenty of time to go for walks and do other physical activities in between drafting. And then we have revising and editing. It's important for visual learners to give their eyes a break between drafting and editing. They should make a new outline for a completed draft. Every single draft they have should be separate so that they could see it in front of them. Another helpful strategy is to take an essay they've written and get rid of paragraph breaks and rework it, meaning get rid of any spacing between paragraphs, then reread it and decide where to put new paragraph breaks, and then compare it to your first draft and see if it matches up, and then decide which is better. Auditory learners, have someone else read your paper to you. It's really good for them to hear it out loud. And sometimes it's even better to hear it from another person than themselves. They should listen to transitions while they're hearing it and really think if the transitions are there. Another helpful tip is for them to read punctuation out loud. This may sound a little weird as well, but it will just really help them notice where each little piece of punctuation goes. I know a lot of problems students have is putting commas in where they don't belong. Last, we have kinetic learners. Again, it's going to be really good for them to move around and take plenty of breaks while revising and editing. In between drafts, or even after our first draft, it might be good to take a break, rest, sleep, eat, and start again the next day. Multimodal literacy. Utilizing multimodal literacy is an excellent way to teach students with different learning styles at once. So multimodal literacy will really help teachers teach each of their students their writing processes by introducing different modes of text in learning. Multimodal texts are print-based and digital texts that utilize more than one mode or resource to represent meaning potentials, where mode is defined as a social-cultural shaped resource for meaning making. So examples of modes can be photography, painting, art, mathematics, music, pretty much anything just outside of regular text just by itself. And that brings us to an excellent mode, which is visual literacy, which plenty of students will respond to positively. One issue teachers have when introducing multimodal literacy is incorporating appropriate multimodal literacy into the classroom, since we don't have a lot of experience with this historically. Picture books aren't really around anymore, but you could find some good books that have some pictures coinciding with the story here and there. And if you really can't find anything, then just find a picture yourself online that has to do with the topic, the paragraph in a book, or even if it just coincides with the setting that the book takes place in. Visual literacy has shown to build stronger readers. It allows for deeper understanding and changes the lens for different learners. So it really just gives visual learners a chance to decipher a piece of text differently than they would if they just had the text alone. A picture that may go with the text may give them a meaning or insight into the novel or a theme that they wouldn't have had without it. It also just completely changes the way they look at what's being said. So as a reflection, it's really important for us to be aware of different learning styles in the classroom. We should spend a decent amount of time recognizing each student's learning style. They may not have just one either. It's going to be really important for us to help the students learn their learning styles and recognize how they learn. Using multimodal literacy will help them learn in different ways, and it may even help them recognize what kind of learner they are. And most importantly, it's really important for us to put plenty of time aside for the writing process itself. Not enough time is devoted to the writing process in the classroom. Really learning effective ways to write, read, record information, organize, and draft as they're writing will help students immensely. Okay, and that brings my presentation to a close. Thanks for joining me, guys.